Hello, my name is Grian, and today I've got a bunch of farm designs to show you, and I'm not talking about your normal farm where you just put crops in the ground and decorate it. I'm talking about some truly unique designs to make them look better. Not all of these designs are functional, so let's get straight into it, shall we? The first one, as you can see, is this multi-layered platformed farm that's almost dystopian in the way that it's built. It has one central pillar and a bunch of very small circular platforms that make their way up as you go around. You climb up a vine, but it could also be done with a ladder, however it might not fit as well. So if you've got almost a ruined city type thing or a futuristic one that's in an industrial style, this might fit. It's quite an odd design, but I think it works nonetheless. This could be adapted to many situations. Next up, we have a more normal looking one. So what we've got here is a pretty good looking farm design. We've got one major tree that's completely handmade, and we've got a bunch of these circular platforms that each lie at a different Y coordinate, and that's quite important. So they almost look like stepping stones down to the floor. Each circle has a unique plant in it, so we've got potatoes, carrots and wheat at the top, and some sugarcane mixed in there as well. The tree, however, is the centerpiece, and you can see that it's got a bit more detail than your average Minecraft tree, with some custom heads that look like apples in there as well. Of course, most of it is aesthetic, but at least this one offers quite a lot of floor space to do your farming in. So you could fit hundreds of wheat or whatever plant that you want to farm in this design, and you can add as many circles as you desire and go as big as you like. Some of the details on this include adding a fence and some slabs on the top and some buttons either side of the log at the end. Buttons are a great detail to use. So next up, I think this is possibly my favorite one out of all of the designs I'm going to show you. It's clearly a greenhouse, and I absolutely adore it. The way that it's built is fantastic. Regardless of the interior, the exterior is just really pleasant to look at, and it's not too difficult to make. We've got a very simple box shape with a bit of a door that comes out of the middle, and the details are really simple. It's just some fences and then some fence gates to link them up, and then behind it it's got some glass in between, and for the roof it's made out of some supports and some more glass and a little bit of detailing at the top where you mix in different shades. It's quite unique, I believe, and we've got a couple of farms out the front to decorate it, and of course leaves drooped all over it. But let's go inside, because the inside is also full of some really cool ideas. So the first thing that I want to point out is this modern looking light. So those large, long neon lights that you get in houses and even in like offices and stuff like that, we can mimic that with some iron fences and some end rods. The problem with this design is that there isn't actually a lot of farming to be done. There's loads of storage opportunities, and you could get a few crops out of each one, but as you can see, we've got one line only of each of the crops. It's mainly for looks, this one. It's perhaps for the builder, not for the farmer. However, I think it looks absolutely fantastic, and to be honest with you, you could put a farm underground that was mass production. Next up, we've got a pretty unique design here that's not entirely practical, as you have to go out of each tube and climb up a ladder to the next tube. You could link them all up, but this is the general design. The water sits underneath inside unique circular tubes that house, again, one of each of the crops that we can grow: carrot, potato and wheat and all that kind of stuff. So it's actually quite simple to make, despite looking quite complicated. You essentially make each one individually and just overlay them on top of each other, and they've got a few bits of support in there as well, and a few bits of detail like the buttons and the fences and that kind of thing, and we get a really cool looking design out of it. The only thing I can say is I'm not entirely sure what house or situation that this particular design fits in really well with. It almost looks futuristic, but because it's made out of wood, it also looks a bit historic. It's an odd choice, but it looks pretty good. Let's move on to the next design, shall we, which actually includes the house itself in the design. So that house there isn't the farm in itself. The actual farm is very simple and attached either side of it. You can see some of the carrots down there, and on the right hand side you can see some potatoes. What we've got on the roof is a decorative farm. So you can see we've made a pretty cool looking fence just using trapdoors. I feel like it's not used often enough. On the top of the roof, we've got a bunch of wheat that sits there. You do not farm the wheat, it's just for aesthetic purposes. It's almost like a turf roof in Iceland. The idea of this design is to surround the farmhouse with all the plant life possible. The actual farms themselves are incredibly simple things and almost secondary to the overall effect of this house. I don't think many people would have wheat on their roofs. The next design that I want to show you is this one, also one of my favourites of this showcase. I'm really excited to show you this because we think we've got a new design for fences. As you can see, it goes all the way around this design. It's made with wooden trapdoors and signs. As you can see, we've placed them either side of a block border, and we've placed signs along the longer side of them. So it almost forms a complete looking custom fence, and there's a lot of variations on this that you can do to make it look more solid. I know this is farm designs and not fence designs, but this sort of cropped up and I thought I would talk about it. So let's actually move on to the farm part of this. Obviously this one is more aesthetic than anything else. We've got a load of trapdoors. Basically the whole farm design is made out of trapdoors. We've only got 4 spaces to actually farm crops. So again, this is more about looks than actual practicality. However, we have got one of each, and you could make this on a massive scale if you wanted to. So if we take a bird's eye view here, we can see that they're all interconnected between each other using trapdoors and a bit of spruce and some logs in there as well, and you can grow some cocoa beans as well on the jungle logs in between. The concept is very sound, the practicality is not great, but we've also got a cool new fence design to throw in there as well. Let's move on to the next one, which is more about practicality and using the space more efficiently. As with most of my showcase videos, it always includes at least one desert design, and today is no different. We've got an entire oasis here to show you what you could use for farming. So you can see we've got this large circular design that has different steps going all the way up to the top. Obviously going between them is a little bit of a pain, but you can see that it has a really nice effect. You could see several of these working in a gigantic sandstone city. We've also got some custom trees and plants around it. So it's almost like an entire oasis has been transformed into a farming circle. And we can go up the stairs in the middle to the next layer where we've got tons and tons of potatoes, and up again where we've got some beetroot, and you have to make sure that things don't get in the way. You can also grow cocoa beans around here as well. So the detailing on this is fairly simple. You just need a bunch of trapdoors and some fences thrown in here or there, and of course some signs and buttons and that kind of thing. It's predominantly made out of sandstone, so it's quite cheap and easy to source the materials for. I would imagine that this in particular is one of the best options for people living in a desert. It's got a bunch of water around, and I think it looks pretty good. It's definitely one of the more sizable ones, which is why we're now going to show a very small looking one in contrast. We've got a pumpkin / melon farm, and it's meant to look like a fantasy adventure thing. So we've got a rundown cart here, or it doesn't have to be run down, you just remove the leaves and it can be a normal looking cart. And we've got some pumpkins thrown in higgledy-piggledy. It's not meant to look super uniform, this one. It's almost meant to be like a wild pumpkin patch, and that's the entire concept behind it. You could even put a chest inside the cart and store your farming materials in there. The next one is more of a normal looking design. This is perhaps what I would expect to see people doing with their farms, where they have different crops on just different layers, but I want to show you some things to decorate your more normal looking farms. You can make cool looking scarecrows out of a dropper and some fences, a pumpkin pumpkin, and you can make a cool little hat with some carpets as well. I also wanted to show you this trapdoor windmill that you might have noticed was in the new disasters map on my server. So just some very basic things like putting the hay bales and that kind of thing can make a normal looking farm look even better. Next up, we have another desert design today. This is entirely just for cactus designs. Now, the whole concept of having this tent over the top of the produce is redundant for cactuses because obviously they thrive better just being left to their own devices. However, this idea, if you've got more of a camp rather than a giant desert city, could work for multiple different crops. You could cover it up, add a bit of water, and have multiple different styles thrown in there as well. Quite a nice concept for those of you that live in the desert. The final one is something that had to be included because it's such a popular thing. Automatic farms, or rather semi-automatic farms, because I don't think they exist yet. So what we've got here is one block of tilled dirt, and we've got a little redstone machine. So if we flick the lever on this very simple dispenser automated machine, we've got some water there as well to make the grass farmland wet, and we've got a couple of redstone torches underneath in between, and it sets off a clock that activates all the dispensers simultaneously. All of these dispensers have a ton of bone meal in them. And then all you do is go up to it, grab your seed and place it and destroy it simultaneously. So you basically right click, left click, right click, left click, and it will grow the seed faster than you can demolish it. Basically, you farm a lot of wheat there. So it is a semi-automatic farm. The only downside, of course, is that you need a lot of bone meal for this to work. So the idea of this concept was to design something, an encasement around it. Shulker boxes like to disappear, so I'm sorry about that, but we also added some pipes on the side, we've got some chimneys up above, and the idea was just to decorate this redstone farm, because I feel like a lot of people that do have these semi-automatic farms don't normally bother making them look fantastic, which is what this idea was here today, to sort of create an industrial style around this little redstone contraption. Obviously, redstone is not my forte, and there might be better ways of doing it. The whole point of this design was not the most efficient semi-automatic farm. It was to show you how you can decorate a redstone farm. So that's it for today's farming showcase. This has been a very requested video indeed, so I hope that at least one of these designs, or maybe even some of the things that accompany the designs, has tickled your imagination today. So let's have a quick look through all of them again. We've got the very small, very natural pumpkin patch with the broken down cart. We've got the massive oasis sandstone farm, and this is a good opportunity to say that pearlescentmoon and happyjellyfish were the two people that helped me put together all of these farm designs. They are very, very talented, and I'll leave a link to them in the description as well. We've got our very cool trapdoor fence and trapdoor related farms. We've got our turf roofed house here, which of course just has a couple of normal farms either side, so that's a pretty cool concept. We've got our very odd looking futuristic slash not futuristic tubes full of crops. And we've got my very favourite greenhouse design that isn't particularly practical, but I think it looks absolutely amazing. And of course we've got some of our very first ones with the tree and a more practical sense of farming on those gigantic circles, each lie on a different step. And finally, but also firstly, our very moderate and tall looking platformed farm system. So that's all of the designs today. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment and a like to let me know if you want to see more showcases. Thank you very much for watching again. Goodbye.